Good morning, people. I wanted to talk about one of my favorite guitar brands, none other than Gibson guitars. So I love Gibson. I actually own a Gibson ES 175. So anything I'm going to say is not going to be disparaging about Gibson. But a couple of years back, Mark Agnesi did that video, Gibson Authentic, where he basically ranted and raved about all of the different manufacturers who were essentially copying and trademarking their names. Short end of it, Gibson ended up suing. The internet kind of went against that whole video, and there was a lot of brouhaha. I think I even made a video back then about it. But the short end of it is that Gibson ended up suing a bunch of different manufacturers, and one of them was Dean Guitars. And so whatever became about this thing. So 3 years later, almost 3 years later to the date. So if you kind of high level it a little bit, I'm not going to get into legalese, but essentially Gibson sued Armadillo, which is the parent company of Dean, and there was 8 trademark infringements. Like it was 4 guitar body shapes: the Flying V, the Explorer, the ES, and the SG. A headstock design and about 3 word trademarks, including the Hummingbird. I think the headstock design was the Dove Wing. But in any event, so there were these infringements. Everybody knows the Flying V, the Explorer, and the SG, and the ES. So what became of this? Almost to the date, I think it was May or July of this year, the courts basically awarded to me. This is how I read it, because you can let people, spin it however they want from that perspective. Gibson prevailed against Dean Guitars. So the courts enjoined them, issued an injunction, and basically said to Dean Guitars, you cannot manufacture, you cannot advertise, nor can you sell these Flying V's, these Explorers, these ES, these SGs, the Hummingbirds, all of that stuff. So to me, that's pretty clear. That's a victory. Let's look at damages. So if you look at the way Dean tried to spin it, is that, well, the court only awarded $4,000 in damages. That's not really true. Yes, technically that's what they awarded, but Dean Guitars also has to pay the $330,000 worth of legal fees, as kind of occurs in cases like that. So it's much, 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 much bigger impact from that perspective. And the fact that you cannot, or I should say, you cannot do this. Well, no, yeah, I should say that's what basically the law says. You can't do this Flying V. You can't do these Explorers the way you've been doing them. You're going to have to go back and kind of make some changes to that. And there's the question about what does that do to, artist models that exist with those head shapes with the Flying V? What becomes of those types of arrangements? So anyway, so it's sort of like the next level is, I believe Dean is going to appeal it. It's kind of very interesting. As a side note, what's funny about it, I think this guy's name, the CEO of Dean, Evan Rubenstein, he stepped down. Basically, he got fired. If you kind of read between the line, it's a family-owned business because he's being sued for embezzlement of the dad's business and things of that nature. So at the end of the day, the saga continues, but to me, this was clearly a victory for Gibson guitars. I think Dean guitars will be fine. And what does this say of things like Harley Benton and all these other people who are basically making these guitars that are ES kind of clones and Flying V kind of clones? Just beware. It's still an iconic brand. I still loved it even when that stuff came out. And at the end of the day, it's all about making music, and it's all about really upping their game up and making good instruments at a reasonable price that musicians can enjoy. And hopefully that occurs when all this mess kind of clears up. Thank you again for watching.